The battlefield lay silent after the last blast faded into the cold morning air. Smoke curled upward like thin gray fingers, dancing slowly toward the broken sky. What remained of metal ships and armored vehicles looked like scattered bones of fallen giants. Everything around spoke of destruction, loss, and defeat. Yet in the middle of this ruined field stood one man, Elias Ward, a lone human soldier with dust on his armor and fire in his eyes. The wind brushed across his face, carrying the bitter smell of burnt steel and lost hopes. Elias didn't move, not even when the ashes blew past his boots. He had come too far to show fear now. Behind him, human troops whispered among themselves, shaken and tired, but they all kept looking at him. He was the only reason they had gathered courage today. Elias was not the tallest, not the strongest, but there was something in him, something unbreakable. He wasn't here for glory, medals, or revenge. No, his heart carried a single purpose, sharp as a blade. He wanted his brother back. Months ago, the alien empire have swept across human colonies like a storm. Their technology was beyond understanding, their warriors taller and stronger, their empire older than human history itself. Anyone they captured never returned. Among those taken was Elias' younger brother, Liam, a bright, joyful boy who dreamed of joining the Peace Corps, a boy who had never hurt anyone, a boy whose smile Elias still saw every time he closed his eyes. And now, Elias stood here on alien soil, demanding something no human ever dared to ask. The ground trembled suddenly. From the horizon, a massive silver gate rose from beneath the earth, unfolding like the petals of a metallic flower. The soldiers behind Elias stiffened. The ground's vibration grew stronger as a towering figure stepped forward, tall, elegant, terrifying. The queen arrived. Her skin shimmered like polished obsidian, her four glowing eyes observing everything with cold superiority. She wore a crown made of living metal that shifted with every breath. Her two upper arms folded calmly, while her two lower arms hung at her sides, motionless but strong. Every step she took left ripples in the dust. To humans, she was a nightmare. To her people, she was a goddess. To Elias, she was the only barrier standing between him and his brother. The queen stopped in front of him. Her height no longer looked like intimidation, it looked like arrogance carved into flesh. Her voice echoed across the ruins. "Human," she said, each syllable smooth but cold, "state your request." Elias met her four eyes without trembling. "Return my brother. His name is Liam Ward." There was no anger in his tone, only raw determination and a quiet ache that even the queen felt for a moment. But her coldness returned almost instantly. She laughed, a soft, cruel sound that made the soldiers behind Elias grip their weapons. Her reply came like a dagger. She turned away as if he were nothing more than dust beneath her feet. The refusal cut deeper than any blade. Elias felt something break inside him, not hope, but patience. The queen had not only rejected his plea, she had dismissed humanity entirely. She did not see him as a threat. She did not see him as worthy. But she was wrong. Elias stepped forward, voice echoing through the silent field. "Remember this moment, queen." She paused. Slowly, she turned her head, the crown glinting dangerously. "Because you have taken everything from me." His hands tightened into fists. His knees trembled, not with fear, but with the effort to hold back his grief and rage. His heart pounded in his ears. His brother's face flashed before him, the laughter, the dreams, the promise that he would come back home soon. Elias raised his voice again. "And now I will take something from you." Gasps whispered among the soldiers. Even the queen's expression shifted, just slightly, but enough. Her eyes narrowed, and for the first time she truly looked at Elias not as a weak human, but as something unpredictable. Something dangerous. "Human," she said slowly, "what can you possibly take from me?" Elias didn't answer. Not yet. He simply watched her, waited, and beneath the smoke-filled sky, a silent promise formed between them. A queen had him. A brother waited in chains. And Elias Ward would not leave without him. Not today. Not ever. The queen's cold question, "What can you possibly take from me?" hung in the air like a blade. For a moment, the entire field seemed to stop breathing. The alien soldiers behind her kept their weapons ready, their glowing armor pulsing with quiet power. The human soldiers behind Elias watched with wide, uncertain eyes. No one moved. No one dared. Elias didn't answer her, not yet. His silence alone felt dangerous. The queen turned slightly, irritation flickering across her black glass skin. She was used to humans trembling, begging, collapsing under her gaze. But Elia's ward stood different, too calm, too steady, carrying a fire that didn't belong to someone defeated. Softly, he reached into his belt. The motion was slow, not threatening, but the alien guards raised their weapons instantly. Human soldiers gasped. The queen lifted one hand and the guards froze. She wanted to see what this strange human thought he could reveal. Elias pulled out a small metal disc, round, smooth, glowing faint blue through delicate cracks. It looked harmless, like a toy or a broken piece of machinery. But when the queen's eyes fell upon it, her expression changed completely. She inhaled sharply. A sound of shock escaped her. She recognized it. "Impossible," the queen whispered. Her perfect voice trembled for the first time. "How did a human touch such a thing without dying?" The soldiers around her murmured in panic, as if Elias was suddenly surrounded by invisible fire. The disc pulsed softly in his hands. Elias lifted it where she could see it clearly. "You know what this is." Her four eyes burned. "The Star Key." Gasps rippled through both armies. Even humans had heard whispers of that name, an artifact older than any known civilization, a relic that could open any lock, any shield, any secret vault. It was said that whoever possessed the Star Key could walk freely into the heart of any empire, even one as powerful as the... Elias held it like someone holding a beating heart. The queen's voice sharpened. "Human, you do not understand the danger." "I understand enough," Elias said. His voice was steady, but a storm brewed behind it, pain, fury, and a love for his brother that rose fiercer than fear. The queen stepped toward him, her tall form casting a long shadow. "That relic belongs to the royal bloodline. Only we may hold it." Elias looked straight at her. "Not anymore." Her jaw tightened, her lower arms curled into trembling fists. She had him once and walked away, but now she couldn't. He had something she valued, something she needed, and that made him dangerous. Elias continued, his voice low. "You my brother's release, as if his life meant nothing." The queen tried to regain her coldness. "It means nothing." Those words stabbed him deeper than any blade. His brother, gentle, hopeful, innocent, was nothing to her. Just another human life swallowed by her empire. Elias spoke in a voice filled with quiet thunder. "Then hear me clearly, Queen." He held up the Star Key, its blue glow flickering across both armies. "If you won't give me my brother, then I will walk into your royal core and uncover whatever you're hiding." The queen froze. Her entire body stiffened, her crown flickered like flames caught in a storm. Her cold arrogance melted into something sharper, fear. Real fear. Her voice cracked. "You dare threaten my core. You do not know what you are speaking of." "But you do," Elias replied softly. His words struck her like a spear. Behind him, human soldiers exchanged nervous looks. None of them understood what the royal core held, but its name alone made alien guards glance at each other with panic. Elias took one step forward. "I lost my brother." Another step. "I lost my home." Another. "I have nothing else to lose." The queen's breath halted. This human, this small, fragile creature, was not bluffing. He wasn't posturing or seeking glory. He was a man who had already been broken once, and now nothing frightened him. That made him the most dangerous being she had ever faced. Her voice dropped to a warning whisper. "Human, do not force me to destroy you." Elias finally met her eyes fully. There was no fear, no hesitation, only pure, burning resolve. "Then return my brother," he said, "or watch your empire tremble." The queen's heart lurched. For the first time in centuries, she felt the foundation of her throne shift beneath her. Because this stubborn, grieving human, might actually be able to do it. The wind grew colder around them as Elias raised the star key. Its pale blue glow pulsed like a heartbeat, slow, steady, alive. The queen stared at it with a mixture of fury and fear, a combination no one had ever seen on her face before. Her 4 eyes widened, reflecting the relic's light as if it burned her from the inside. Around her, the alien guards stiffened, their weapons humming in warning. The human soldiers behind Elias exchanged worried whispers. They had followed him this far, but now even they weren't sure what he was planning. Elias himself felt his pulse hammering in his ears, but he didn't let the fear surface. He had already stepped beyond the point of return. Slowly, he pressed his finger against a small indentation on the star key. The relic responded instantly. A bright glow bloomed from the device, stretching outward until it formed a floating hologram above his hand. A shimmering three-dimensional map made of light. It twisted in the air like a living creature, lines of blue and white creating intricate pathways. Everyone stared. The queen took a sharp step forward. "Human, stop, you cannot." But Elias already knew. He had unlocked the Starkey's map function. The map rotated in front of him. It was massive, almost overwhelming, filled with branching tunnels, circles, symbols, and glowing nodes. Most people wouldn't understand any of it, but Elias had studied enough alien signals during the war to recognize at least one part. A deep, glowing red symbol near the center. A spiral. A warnings. A secret. Elias pointed at it. "This leads to the royal core." A ripple of gasp spread through both armies. The queen's voice broke into raw panic. "Human, you cannot reveal this. Stop immediately." But Elias didn't stop. He zoomed the map outward, revealing hidden tunnels that twisted beneath her palace, ancient pathways, secret chambers that weren't meant to be known outside the royal bloodline. The queen's legs trembled with rage. This human had done something impossible. He had touched the one relic even her highest generals feared. He had unlocked paths only she was supposed to know. Elias looked at her, his expression raw and determined. "You told me my brother meant nothing." The queen's lips curled in frustration. "Because he does. To my empire he is." Elias cut her off sharply. "To you everyone is nothing. Just tools, just prisoners, just fuel for your power." Her lower arms clenched, claws scraping against the ground. "You do not understand the weight of a throne. And you don't understand the weight of losing someone you love." The queen flinched. For a creature who had lived centuries, who ruled galaxies with an iron heart, the simple human emotion behind his words struck harder than any weapon. She could crush armies, burn planets, break civilizations, but she didn't know what to do with emotions that didn't fear her. Elias continued, voice shaking with grief and fury. "I begged, I waited, I hoped. I tried every peaceful way to get my brother back." The map flickered, showing deeper tunnels, one so hidden even many didn't know they existed. "But if you deny me again," Elias said, his voice low and deadly, "then I will enter your core myself." The queen's eyes widened. Her breath caught, because she knew what that meant. No outsider had ever entered the core. No outsider had ever even seen it. The place held the oldest secrets of her species, truths that could shatter her rule. Her voice trembled. "Human, you do not know what lies there." Elias stepped forward. "Then maybe it's time someone found out." The alien guards raised their weapons instantly. The humans behind Elias lifted their rifles too, ready to fire. Tension exploded like lightning, and for a moment it felt like the entire battlefield would erupt again. But the queen lifted one trembling hand. The guards froze. Her gaze locked onto Elias, anger fighting fear, pride battling the shocking truth that a single human now held power over her. "You are reckless," she whispered. "You are fragile, insignificant, and yet." Her voice cracked. You hold something that can destroy my entire world. Elias swallowed hard. He didn't want destruction. He didn't want war. He wanted his brother. He took a deep breath. Queen, listen carefully. The soldiers on both sides leaned forward. I don't want to hurt your people. I don't want to tear your empire apart. His voice softened with emotion, trembling with honesty. I only want one thing, my brother, Liam Ward. The Queen stood frozen, shaken, confused, threatened by a truth she didn't know how to fight. A human who would rather risk the galaxy than lose the last piece of his family. The Queen whispered, barely audible. Human, what have you done? Because she finally realized. Elias Ward was not a soldier anymore. He was a storm, and that storm was coming straight for her core. The ground beneath Elias trembled as he stepped toward the entrance of the hidden tunnels. The map from the Starkey floated beside him, glowing blue and guiding him with silent confidence. Every step he took felt heavier than the last. He knew that once he entered these forbidden paths, he would no longer be just a human soldier. He would become a threat to an entire empire. Behind him, the Queen stood frozen in disbelief. No one in her lifetime had dared walk into the hidden chambers beneath her palace. Not even her most loyal generals. Yet this one fragile human, carrying nothing but grief and stubborn love, was walking toward the darkness she protected with her life. Her voice finally broke the silence. Human, stop this madness. Elias didn't stop. He didn't even turn around. His voice echoed softly. You mean the peaceful path? The Queen's 4 eyes widened with something that looked almost like helplessness. Her guards tried to move forward, but she raised her hand sharply. Do not touch him, she snapped. Even her soldiers were shocked. The Queen never protected outsiders, never protected humans, but this was different. If Elias entered the royal core with the Starkey, the consequences would be catastrophic. Elias stepped deeper into the first tunnel. The air changed instantly, colder, heavier, as if the walls themselves breathed ancient secrets. Strange symbols glowed faintly on the stone surfaces, and the light seemed to follow him like eyes watching every move. He swallowed hard but kept walking. His thoughts drifted to Liam. He must be alive, Elias whispered to himself. He must. It was that belief, small but unbreakable, that carried him forward. The Queen suddenly appeared at the tunnel opening, her tall silhouette blocking the light behind her. She wasn't commanding now. She wasn't cruel. She looked shaken. Her voice was softer than before, almost pleading. Human, you do not understand what lies below. Turn back. Elias didn't stop. The Starkey map pulsed brighter, pulling him forward. Then explain it to me, he said quietly. Explain why you keep prisoners, why no one ever returns, why my brother was taken. The Queen's jaw tightened. Emotions flickered across her face, fear, regret, guilt, but none stayed long enough to form words. When she didn't answer, Elias continued walking. The tunnel curved downward, deeper into darkness. The stone walls turned metallic, smooth and cold. Faint humming noises vibrated through the ground. Lights flickered like dying stars. Then, at the end of a long corridor, Elias saw something that made his breath catch. A giant chamber, wide, circular, and filled with rows upon rows of tall, glowing pods. They stood like silent pillars stretching into the distance. Inside each pod floated a figure. Humans, aliens, species Elias had never seen before. All alive but frozen, suspended in a strange blue light. His heart stopped. This was it. This was the secret the Queen feared. Elias took shaky steps toward the closest pod. He touched the cold glass, and the figure inside shifted slightly, like someone dreaming a nightmare without end. His voice cracked. Why are they all here? Behind him, the Queen appeared slowly. Her steps were heavy, her expression dark. For the first time, she did not look like a ruler or a warrior. She looked like someone carrying a burden too heavy to hold. Her voice came out hollow. This place is the core, the heart of my people's survival. Elias turned sharply. Survival, this is torture. The queen flinched. Her lower arms curled inward, like someone shielding themselves from the truth. You do not understand, she whispered. My world, my species, feeds on energy. Not light, not heat, but life. The essence inside living bodies. Elias felt the world tilt around him. She continued, her voice breaking. We do not kill them. We take only enough to keep our empire alive. Without this energy, billions of my people will starve. Elias stared at her with disbelief and horror. You built your power on the suffering of others. The queen's eyes shimmered with something sharp, pain maybe, or regret long ignored. I had no choice. Elias clenched his teeth. Everyone has a choice. His gaze drifted across the pods until it landed at the far end of the chamber. His steps quickened, heart pounding violently. Pod number 7B. A small figure inside. A pale face. Familiar hair. Elias pressed his forehead to the glass. His voice broke. Liam. For a moment, the universe went silent. He had found his brother. But behind him, the queen whispered words filled with fear. Human, now that you've seen this, everything will change. And she was right. Because the truth was out. And Elias wasn't leaving without his brother. Elias fell to his knees in front of the pod, his trembling hands pressed against the cold glass. Liam's face floated peacefully inside, eyes closed, chest rising slowly as if breathing through water. The blue energy around him glowed softly, wrapping him like a blanket of light. For anyone else, it might have looked calm, gentle, almost beautiful. But to Elias, it looked like a nightmare. His voice cracked with raw emotion. Liam, brother, I'm here, wake up. But Liam didn't move. The queen stood a few steps behind, her tall body stiff, her 4 eyes watching Elias with a strange mixture. Regret, fear, and something softer hidden deep beneath her pride. Elias touched the pod again, his fingers trembling. Open it. The queen did not move. Human, she said softly, it is not that simple. Elias whipped around, anger boiling in his eyes. You kept him here like a battery. You stole his life. The queen flinched at his words, but she did not defend herself. She slowly walked toward him, stopping beside the pod. Her shadow stretched long across the metallic floor. Your brother is alive, she said quietly. But removing him from the pod would shock his system. He has grown dependent on the energy cycle. If you break it suddenly, he may not survive. Elias' heart clenched like a fist. His breath shook. You mean I finally found him, just to lose him again? The queen lowered her gaze, her crown dimming as if sharing his grief. I do not want that to happen. Elias stepped back, his anger momentarily fading into confusion. He stared at her, eyes narrowing. Why do you care? The queen hesitated, something she never did. Her lower hands twisted nervously, a gesture Elias had never seen from her before. Because you walked into my core, she whispered. You faced death without fear. You held the star key when no one else could, and you reminded me of something I lost long ago. Elias waited silent. The queen's voice softened even more. My people once had families too, children, loved ones, but centuries of hunger turned us into something different, something cold. She looked at Liam's pod with sadness carved into her face. Seeing you fight for him reminded me of who we used to be. Her confession stunned Elias. For a brief moment, she wasn't a queen, not a conqueror, not a monster, just a being who had carried too much for too long. But Elias wasn't ready to forgive. Not yet. Not while his brother floated between life and death. Help him, Elias whispered. Please. The queen closed her eyes slowly, as if weighing a heavy decision. When she opened them again, something in her had changed. There is a way, she said. But it will cost me everything. Elias' heart skipped. What do you mean? She touched the pod gently, her fingertips glowing. Your brother is powered by the core's life stream. To release him safely, another must take his place, someone with enough energy to replace what he has lost. Elias straightened, fear rising inside him. Then I'll do it. The queen's eyes widened. No, if a human enters the stream, it will kill you instantly. Elias stepped closer, determination hardening in his voice. Then who? The queen took a slow breath. The answer was heavy, painful, but she forced it out. Me. Elias froze. The queen continued, her voice whisper-soft. If I enter the stream, my energy will stabilize your brother. He will wake. He will live. Elias stared at her in disbelief. But you would die. She nodded slowly. Yes. Silence blanketed the chamber. Even the pod seemed to dim in sorrow. Elias could hardly breathe. This was the same queen who him. The same queen who conquered worlds. The same queen whose empire feared her word as law. And she was offering her life for Liam. Why? Elias asked again, voice trembling. The queen looked at him with an expression so vulnerable it felt impossible. Because you showed me mercy when you could have destroyed my world. A pause. And because your love for your brother is worth more than my throne. Elias swallowed hard, torn between rage, relief, and confusion. He wanted Liam back more than anything. But could he really let someone die for it, even his enemy? Before he could speak, the queen placed her hand on the pod's release panel. Her voice was gentle. Human, let me make this right. Her fingertips glowed brighter. Elias' heart pounded. He reached out desperately. Wait. But the queen whispered, almost lovingly. Tell your brother he was worth fighting for. And then she began the sacrifice. The palace walls trembled as entered the great hall once again. This time he did not walk like a prisoner. He did not walk like a man begging for mercy or approval. He walked like someone who had finally found his truth. The great council of the empire watched him with silent shock. No chains, no guards holding him. Only the soft echo of his footsteps filled the huge chamber. Queen stood at the top of the silver steps, her long crimson cloak flowing behind her. Her face looked calm, but her eyes betrayed fear. She had never feared anything in her life. She had faced wars, rebellions, cosmic storms, but today she feared him. Not because he was strong, not because he threatened her, but because he had shown her something she never expected. That a human heart could shake an empire. Stopped at the foot of the steps. His voice was calm, steady, and strangely gentle. Your Majesty, I am here as promised. You wanted power, you wanted control. But I offered peace, you refused. You me when all I wanted was to help. Felt her throat tighten. She remembered the moment he confronted her arrogance, the moment he walked away. That walk had hurt more than any wound a blade could give. She forced her voice to remain royal. Human, you return without soldiers, without fear. Why? Breathed slowly. Because I never needed to fight you. I only needed to show you what your own people were suffering, and now you understand. Behind him, hundreds of citizens gathered at the doorway. They were silent, but their presence spoke louder than words. Some were injured, some exhausted. All of them looked toward him like he was their last hope. His chest tightened. She could hear the heartbeat she tried so hard to ignore. He was the reason they trusted again. Continued softly, you me because you thought mercy was weakness, but mercy is strength. That's why your empire is crumbling, not because of war, but because of fear. His words struck something deep inside her. A memory, her parents' last command before their deaths. A ruler who cannot feel the pain of her people is not a ruler, but a monster. Blinked rapidly. Why was it suddenly hard to stand tall? He wasn't demanding a throne. He wasn't demanding surrender. He wasn't even angry. He was just honest. He stepped one more step forward. But I have not come to destroy your empire. I've come to save it. Only one thing needs to happen. The entire hall leaned forward. voice trembled even though she tried to hide it. And what is that, human? Looked straight into her eyes, unafraid. You need to listen to your people, to the truth, and to me, not as a king, not as a conqueror, but as someone who still believes you can be better. The queen's breath hitched. No one had ever spoken to her like this. No one dared, but he spoke without hate, without hunger for power, just hope and disappointment. A painful mixture. She felt something break inside her, something hard, something sharp, her pride shattering. Her voice finally cracked. What if I was wrong? You were, he said softly, but now you can choose not to be. The hall fell completely silent. The queen slowly descended the silver steps until she stood right before him. Her hands shook, something no one in the empire had witnessed. She bowed her head, not in defeat, but in surrender of the heart. Human I you once, she whispered, her voice trembling. But now I beg you, show me how to save my people, teach me mercy. The entire hall gasped. The alien queen had never bowed to anyone. Gently lifted her chin. There was no victory in his smile, only sadness and understanding. I will help you, he said, but this time we do it together. Her eyes softened, shining with a fragile vulnerability she had hidden for years. Together, she repeated, almost like a prayer. At that moment, something new was born between them, not fear, not control, but respect. A bond stronger than any weapon. A human and a queen standing side by side, ready to rebuild a broken empire.